Alright, so this video is going to serve as an overview on how you can use the stage mode within SceneForge Studio to actually create 3D scenes. Now you can get started with SceneForge via the Virtual Studio by View platform, as I went over in the previous video. Now stage mode is broken up into 4 main panels and a 3D view in the center. The 3D view can be navigated much like any other 3D engine if you have any experience with those, by right-clicking and dragging with the mouse button to look around. And while you're doing that, you can use W, A, S, and D to move forward, back, left, right, or the arrow keys, as well as Q and E to move up and down. You can also hold Shift to go at higher speeds. Now the 4 main panels are as follows. The left panel has the library for bringing objects into your scene, as well as controlling the scene visuals, such as time of day, fog, lighting, and a bunch of other post-processing effects that I'll go over in a future video. On the right-hand side, you have the scene outline, which has a list of all the objects in the scene. And underneath that, in a resizable panel, you have the properties of the currently selected object. These properties change depending on the type of object selected, such as lights, cameras, and rigged characters. I'm going to go over those properties in a future video as well. And finally, the last panel is the timeline, which can be opened up by clicking the little button at the bottom left corner. And this is used for controlling animations within your scene. Now, to manipulate objects around, you can simply click on them. You'll see the Properties panel updates, and you can move the object around using the little transform gizmo that appears underneath it. When you have an object selected, you can press F on the keyboard to automatically move the camera to that object, and click and drag the different axes to move it around, or click and drag the little square here to move it on the X and Z axis. You can switch between move, rotate, and scale by clicking these little buttons at the floating panel over here. Or undo and redo using these buttons over here. You can also delete an object by simply clicking delete, and manipulate objects further using those controls. Now, aside from the object type, all objects have different buttons at the top that are pretty standard. So for example, when I select an object, you have the name, a button to lock it to prevent movement, as well as an option to show it in the floor plan, which I'll talk about later on, and adding modules, which again I'll talk about later on, to add some different behaviors to objects in your scene. You can expand the object's properties by clicking this little down arrow, and that'll show the current position on the X, Y, and Z axis, as well as rotation and scale, as well as an option to add the object to the timeline, and edit its path using the path editing menu. Again, all of these things will get their own video down the line. And that is basically an overview of how you can use the scene editor. It's worth noting that this Star Destroyer environment is its own object that I imported and brought in via the library panel. Like that. You can also drag in different types of lights, cameras, and dynamic objects from this panel as well. And so with that, if you have any questions, you can leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.